I'm John Oetjens, and welcome to the second edition of a special edition of Schooling Around. If you live in the Oxford School District, you know that the building of an International Residence Academy by the Wei Ming organization has been of significant concern over the past year. And today, Deputy Superintendent Tim Throne is back with us to address many of these public concerns about this project. We'll explain more about this and pick up our conversation after this.
Hello, I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny. Together we want to invite you to our weekly show, Minutes by Minute.
Minutes by Minute is a show where we talk about what's going on with your local Oxford-Addison commissions and councils and other local political groups, passing out legislation and ordinances that affect you. We believe that there is humor in politics and government, and you just have to look for it.
And usually we find it. For example, did you know that a local village has an ordinance that says if you have an acre of land, you're allowed up to 25 chickens, but no rooster?
That could be bad news for the chickens and bad news for the rooster.
Check out our weekly Minutes by Minutes, Monday through Friday, 11:30 a.m. and 10:30 p.m.
There is a warning, Minutes by Minute could be contagious.
As we said before, during a recent school board meeting, local residents took over an hour to voice concerns about having a new International Residence Academy in our school district. It became evident that explanations were in order to bring a proper understanding to this topic. Tim Throne is back with us today. Right now, of course, he's the Deputy Superintendent of Schools here in Oxford. He will be our superintendent on September 1st. Welcome back, Tim, and thanks for sticking around so we can pick up on this a little bit more.
Thank you, John.
As we continue going down our list, the next question has to do with the $10,000 cost per student that the Wei Ming organization would be paying for that second year.
Yep.
They want to know how you determine that.
One of those things where we basically looked at what we thought it was going to cost us to run the program, get some, I'll call it seed money to start up and start doing the things that we want to do. And so really that $10,000 amount was sort of our target of where we thought, or I should say what we thought we could charge in order to have the international program self-sustaining.
Right.
We did not want it to cost the district any money or have it come out of our general fund. In fact, if anything, we want to make sure that not only is the international program self-sustaining, but also be able to put resources back into the district to help all of our students district-wide.
And as with even the money we get from the state for our regular students, a big portion of that obviously goes towards employees and employee benefits and all of that sort of thing.
Yeah, so if you just look at the total cost, roughly right now in Oxford, about 80% of our cost, of our total budget, is employee salaries, health benefits, all those types of things, taxes, retirement. And so when someone asks, where does the school district spend the majority of its money, it's definitely with its employees.
Right. Okay, let's go on to our next question. And this has to do with what we've already been talking about,
Okay.
I guess. What is the actual cost of educating an Oxford High School student?
Well, I guess I'm going to have to stay broad here. It probably costs a different amount for every different student because each student may get various levels of support that
Sure.
they need, right? So it's very, very difficult to say a high school student costs X amount of money because it ranges so much. What we can say is that generally speaking, as a district, we need to make sure that our costs do not run over what the FTE is that we get from the state, which
Right.
is currently around $7,300. So I'll just say, generally speaking, we need to make sure that we keep that cost of educating that student within that ballpark.
Right. I just want to interject here that we're having a bit of a rainstorm outside, so if you hear the pitter-patter on the roof, that's what it is. The good news is it's not leaking, so I think we're in good shape there. All right, let's go on to the next question. Are there state regulations regarding the amount of tuition provided by F1 students?
Specifically to that question, the amount, no. What is required is that all F1 students must pay tuition to attend a public school, which is a federal regulation. F1 secondary students are required to repay the school system the full cost of providing his or her education. And how we determine that full cost is that FTE amount. So we need to always make sure that we're minimally collecting at least what our FTE is from the state, in which case we do. We collect $10,000 per student per year, and as we've said numerous times before, we currently collect around $7,300 per student.
Right. So any student from any other country, they have to pay us a tuition, us or any other public school system.
Correct.
As far as that goes.
Correct.
That's a law.
Correct.
Okay.
On an F1 visa, okay? Now, there are other, I'm going to say other exchange programs around where, I can't think of the name right now, but
Where kids are going to and coming from?
yeah,
Other countries?
exactly. Staying with the host family. That host family is not reimbursed for any expenses, and that school district is not getting any tuition from that student other than just collecting the FTE from the state.
Yeah, but then the other side of the coin is they could be sending students down to the other country, I suppose.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
All right, next question. What is the process for determining if tuition adjustments need to be made, and who has the final say in any tuition adjustment decisions?
So what is the process? The process would be sitting down with our partners and renegotiating what that tuition should be, right?
Now, this is something that is built into the contract, right?
Absolutely. So currently, as our contract reads today, I want to say every 2 years we can come back and I'll just say renegotiate what that tuition amount looks like. So for this coming fall, the 15-16 school year, that tuition is set at $10,000. However, during next school year, we will be in negotiations with our partners to not only review, is the tuition amount correct? Do we need to increase it? All those types of things. But are there other contractual changes, language changes that we need to go through and modify? We will be doing that as well.
So that at the end of the second year, if you mutually decide changes need to be made, they can. And does that open up the door to making other changes in the contract if you decide to change this?
Absolutely.
It does.
Absolutely, yes.
So it's kind of a safety valve.
Here's the thing. This is a partnership. Wei Ming is going to invest X number of millions of dollars in a facility. They need to be able to place students.
Right.
Oxford, in the current contract, has final right of refusal to accept or reject students. So in the end, Oxford has control of what students they bring in, how many they bring in, all of that type of thing. What we did say in the contract is we put limits on it. We didn't want more than 200 because we knew our high school couldn't sustain it, right? So we thought that was sort of our optimal level and that we didn't want to go over that. So we made sure we put a maximum in there. But that doesn't mean that we're going to hit that 200 every year. So I'll share this coming fall. I think right now our estimate is maybe like 50 or 60 new students coming in the fall, and then we've got some students retained from last year. I don't know, I want to say maybe it's 23 or something like that that will be in their second year. So even in the school year of 2015-16, we're only going to have roughly, I don't know, 70, 75 students in the high school. So I think the important piece there is that the district does have control to negotiate that tuition, and we do have control into modifying and updating the contract however we see fit. That's obviously going to be mutually beneficial for both parties.
All right, very good. It's time for another break. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back with Deputy and Superintendent Tim Throne. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, this is Connie again from Connie's Kitchen, coming to you from Treetop Lodge, the place where magic happens and unicorns roam freely. Of course, you have to come to the lodge to understand about the unicorn thing, but they're everywhere. We'll be doing a wide variety of cooking shows here on Oxford Community Television, and I personally would like to thank the crew for coming out and giving me this opportunity to share my passion and what I love to do with you from Connie's Kitchen. So please join us on OCTV, join us at the lodge, and look for us all over the town. And if you see unicorns, they probably came from here. See you soon.
Back with Oxford Deputy Superintendent Tim Throne, talking about the International Residence Academy and some of the questions that local residents have posed. Thanks again for being with us, Tim. We're talking about the tuition rate and so on and so forth. I think we need to say that, and the number of students we expect to have, I think we need to say that it's beneficial for Wei-Ming to have as many kids as they can get towards that 200 number, because that's how they pay for their building and their operation expenses and so on and so forth. So ultimately, I would imagine it would be close to that number.
Yes.
But anyway, all right, let's look at the next question here. Is it correct that we pay the tuition cost for the dual enrollment courses the international students take?
Yes, we do pay for all dual enrollment cost, not only for international students, but for our other programs as well. OVA, which is our virtual academy, OSEC, and regular Oxford High School students who take dual enrolled courses. The district is responsible for those dual enrollment costs, and those costs are paid out of that FTE amount that we get.
Okay, so ultimately, really, I mean, even though technically on paper we pay them, ultimately those costs are recovered from the tuition expenses that are paid on
Yes.
behalf of the kids.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right, the next question. What is the Stage 1 program referred to in the Wei-Ming contract?
Stage 1 refers to the first 2 years that the students are preparing to come to the United States. So I want to say as far back as maybe even in the middle school, students recognize that they want to have an international experience in high school. And so they start to go down this international track. What we've learned in the first 4 years is that while all Chinese students are given English, there are definitely varying degrees as to how prepared students are to come and live here, not just from a language perspective, but also a cultural perspective.
Sure.
And so it is to our advantage, receiving these students, to have them as prepared as possible and be ready to be acclimated into our high school. So stage 1 really refers to, I'll say, the 9th and 10th grade year of that student at the international high school in China.
In China, right.
Getting them ready to come over here for their junior or senior year.
Right. And people need to remember that, at least with things as they are now, 2 years is really the most that any student from another country similar to these kids can stay here in school. Is that right, in a high school?
In a public high school.
Public high school.
Again, if I am going to a private high school, I could come over and stay on a F1 visa in a private high school for multiple years.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay. All right, the next question. Why did the district agree to speak at conferences and allow potential partner visits to promote the international program and Weiming partnership?
While Oxford in some regards may be on the forefront of trying to create a world-class international educational experience, I would also say that we're not there yet. We're still learning. We're not the experts. And so just like we go and seek other school districts or go to conferences to try to learn, best in class types of programs, we also facilitate hosting other groups, other public schools from even different states, as well as our own state, to come and take a look at our program and see what we're doing. So it's a mutual exchange of ideas that, in the end, the reason why we do it is because we know we're not the experts yet, we're still learning, and we want to make ourselves better.
And I think we can say, like the conversation we had in your office the other day, you do a lot of that locally. I mean, as you're preparing to become the superintendent in September, you've been visiting other districts that are close by to see what's working and what's not working for those guys, and they're coming to see you as well. It's not a one-way street.
Absolutely. I can remember one of the lines that I used in my superintendent interview as the new superintendent, I think it is my duty to be the number one student and the number one teacher. And so what does that mean as a superintendent? That means I need to be learning myself. And,
right.
and sometimes learning is easy and sometimes it's difficult.
Let's take a look at the next question. Why did the district agree to assist Weiming in recruiting American teachers to teach at their international school in China?
So this goes back to a couple of questions prior that we talked about. It's to our advantage to have the students that are coming to our high school be as prepared and acclimated as possible as soon as they land. And so one of the ways that we can do that is by helping Weiming recruit native English speakers, native English-speaking teachers into their international high schools, so that those students in those 9th and 10th grade is already getting used to what's it like being a student being taught by an American, a U.S. teacher.
Right.
English, can I understand it? Can I follow the teaching method? Because that the whole culture of what it's like to be a student is totally different. And so the more that we can prepare those students, the better chance that they're going to be successful in our high school.
And don't you think this kind of goes back to an earlier question about are having so many kids from another country in your class going to hold back everybody else? This kind of addresses that problem, I would think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think, if we're honest with ourselves, the capability, the readiness, the English proficiency of those students who we are getting today, are they much more prepared and at a higher level than the first students we received 4 or 5 years ago? Absolutely. Right. And that's better for everybody.
Absolutely. All right, let's take a look at the next question. What will security be like for Oxford students taking classes during the school day in the privately owned and operated residence hall?
So the residence hall is going to be staffed with RAs, teachers, security personnel. I would say that security is definitely no less than what they would have in any of our existing buildings. In some regards, maybe more.
Okay. We have to take a little break, but we'll be right back with Deputy Superintendent Tim Throne. Don't go away.
You're watching OCTV. Daniel Oxford Tech 10.
Welcome back to Schooling Around with Deputy Superintendent Tim Throne of Oxford Schools. Thanks again for being with us, Tim.
You're welcome, John.
We're addressing a number of questions that residents have posed about the International Academy that is proposed here in Oxford. So let's go on to the next question.
Okay.
Do Oxford students or parents have to go through a background check to enter the residence hall facility?
No, parents and students will be treated in that facility just as they are treated in any other school building. Now, if you're going to be a volunteer or you're going to be in that building and helping students or whatever, then you need to go through background checks just like you do in our high school, middle school, or elementary schools.
Right. The next question, and this is tough because this is a moving target lately. There's a couple of proposals on the table by the Wei Ming organization as to, whether the final building is going to be here or is going to be there. For our purposes, we're thinking that it's going to be near the school on
Correct.
Oxford Road, which is,
Correct.
it's the 4-story building proposal.
Yep.
Obviously, we don't know details about that because it's the Wei Ming people who are dealing with that. But it has to do with parking. This is something that's been talked about for a while. How much parking will be available at the residence hall? So at least in the case of
Right.
what seems to be the most likely scenario, what do you think?
So it's our understanding that if the facility is built on the North Oxford Road site, there'll be approximately 70 parking places built up front. I want to say if that facility is maxed out or that kind of thing, there may be some additional parking that's needed. The benefit is because it's right on the south side of the football field, that type of thing. We have a huge parking lot at the high school right there. So any overflow parking, we can more than accommodate
Right.
at the high school.
Okay. Will students be bused between the residence hall and high school? Who pays for that bus, if so? And is the money also coming out of the $10,000 tuition?
Any transportation cost has been paid for over and above by Wei Ming. That does not come out of their tuition. So even this school year, while those students stayed at a residential hall down in Rochester, while the district provided that bus, we charged Wei Ming $50,000 for those transportation services.
Right.
All right. Our true cost, we believe, was about $40,000. So we always try to make we need to ensure that we cover our costs, at the same time pay for our time, our effort in arranging those types of things. And so going forward, if transportation were to be needed, then Wei Ming would need to provide for those services.
It seems that if indeed it ends up being the Oxford Road location, they probably won't need to be
Correct.
bused anyway. Right?
In most cases, the students, if they need to get between the high school and that facility, they would just walk on the sidewalk between those buildings.
Okay.
But in the event that transportation is needed, then yes, Wei Ming would be picking up that tab.
The next question is, according to the contract, Wei Ming could bring in more students right now. Are we prepared for that, and has this been addressed?
Again, going back to our conversation regarding Oxford has the ultimate say, the final right of refusal for accepting students. So if Wei Ming could produce enough students that passed our acceptance, are we ready to accept them? I feel we are. But as of right now, I think this fall, like I said, I think we'll roughly be taking maybe 50, 60 new students.
Okay. The Planning Commission was told that the residence hall will not be available for after-school activities. Is that true, and isn't that already a violation of contract?
So a couple of things. When it comes to activities and those types of things after school, we definitely want to be able to leverage those facilities. I would say we want to leverage it for all of our students, right? Not just international students. So we see that while there's times after school international students will be at the high school, hopefully some of our local students will be at the Wei Ming building. And so we do see some of those activities. I think it's also important to understand, though, that the school district doesn't own that building. Wei Ming has obviously the majority of say in whether they offer, night classes or other student activities later on in the day, or maybe they want to partner with Parks and Rec and offer some recreational types of facilities. I don't know as if it's really the school district's say to tell Wei Ming you can or you can't. I think obviously they're the owner, they can determine that themselves.
Right. Question of college partnerships, how much does the district pay in dual enrollment?
This current school year, the 2014-15 school year, Oxford paid, I want to say right around $250,000 in dual enrollment costs. And
that's for all students?
For all students,
Yeah.
again. So that's our normal high school student, our OVA student, our OSEC, which is our early college program, as well as our international program. Specifically with international, I just approved the invoice for second semester, and I want to say it was like around $28,000 for the second semester. So you can see, even though while that's a big amount of money for dual enrollment cost, the majority of that cost isn't coming from the international program.
Right, okay. Final question, what are the benefits of these dual enrollment partnerships?
Well, first of all, it's a state law. We have to provide them, all right? So it's not whether we like it or not, we have to, it's law. But specifically to the question, what's the benefit? The benefit is a kid can get college credit while still in high school and start building up those credits. And with our OSEC program, that student can stay a fifth year and graduate with an associate's degree and come out, on average 19 years old with an associate's degree and can go and do anything that they want.
And can save them and their parents a heck of a lot of money.
That's right. That's right. It's a huge benefit.
Okay. We've gone through our list here. If there are other questions you'd like to ask, you're invited to call us at the station and we'll pass them along to Tim, or email them or drop them off at the school office building in downtown Oxford. We'd like to say thanks to Oxford Deputy Superintendent Tim Throne for joining us today. Also thanks to Kyle Snage at the controls, as always, Dan Zweiss at the editing desk, and to you for watching most of all. This is Oxford Community Television, keeping it local.